May Allah make this year more auspicious for us. New year, new life. New year, new life. May Allah make this year more auspicious for us. New year, new life. New year, new life.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. Amma ba'd, fa'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. As-salatu wassalamu alayki ya Rasulullah,
salatu
wa
wassalamu
ala
alayka ya
alika wa ashabiki ya Habiballah,
wa ala alika wa ashabika ya
as-salatu wassalamu alayki ya Nabiyallah,
salatu wassalamu
wa
alayka ya
ala
Nabi
alika wa ashabiki ya Nurallah.
wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Nur Allah.
MashaAllah. Viewers of Madani Channel, you're watching New Year, New Life. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu ta'ala wasallam is reported to have said that the closest to me on the day of judgment will be the one who has recited salat upon me the most. So please make a habit of reciting Durud Pak. Where is our status in Islam? Where is my Islam? What is my position in Islam? Me and Islam, where am I? Where is Islam in my life? And inshallah, we've got the Muballighs here in the studio that are going to talk about this topic, that where is Islam in my life? Me and my deen, me and Islam, where do I stand? And mashallah, Hafiz Sahib was the one who chose this very, very interesting subject, and I'm hoping that he's got some excellent Madani pearls to share with us to begin the subject. Ji Hafiz Sahib.
Very important topic, because we've been discussing about Imam Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Imam Hassan radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and all the martyrs of Karbala. But where do we put ourselves in all that? You know, how much relationship do we have with our Creator Allah Azza wa Jal? How much are we into Islam? You know, you sometimes, breaks your heart when you talk to people and they say, we'll see what happens later on. You know, that means that there is no relationship between them and their deen. On the day of judgment, the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam has mentioned, no one will be able to move unless they've answered 5 questions. And one of them question will be, how did you spend your life? The second one, how did you spend your youth? Now the thing is, are we ready to reply to Allah Azza wa Jal on the day of judgment that, Ya Allah, this is how I spent my life. Ya Allah Azza wa Jal, this is how I spent my youth. And it's very important that we get our priorities right before we die. There's no point being on the deathbed and then thinking to yourself, what have I done? I've wasted my life. There's so many stories. You've mentioned a lot of them as well. Harun Bhai's mentioned plenty of them in their bayans. Where people have regretted. There's a verse in the Quran where Allah Azza wa Jal, He says that on the day of judgment, a person will regret, and he will say that, Ya Allah, send me back to the world again, be amongst the righteous people. But you're not going to get that chance again. This is the time. Now we need to reflect. Muharram and Ashura, where we have the blessings of Sayyidina Imam Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Just imagine Imam Hussein asking you that question. Where's your deen and how much love do you have for your deen? He had the love for the deen. He gave his life for the Islam. He gave his children's life for the sake of Islam. Today, I've heard where people have said that, "Bo Molvi na bano, it's alright, do whatever you want, namaz." If you get, anyway, I've even had Harun Bhai people where they're saying, if you get time, namaz pado, bo Molvi na bano. The thing is, banda sojna, how can a Muslim even say these words? If you get time, namaz pado, namaz is farz upon you. So today's topic, basically what we want is ourselves and the viewers to go back today and think to yourself, what is my relationship with my
But
Lord?
has Islam not just become a hobby though? With a lot of people, it's just become a hobby, Hafiz Sahib, that, okay, if I get time, I'll go to the masjid. If I get time, I'll do my namaz. If I get time, I'll do this. And it's become like a hobby. It's like almost like a, I don't want to say, but like people make a gym membership and they get a gym membership. And when they get a gym membership, they're really enthusiastic and they go to gym 2 or 3 times. And after that, they never go. And it's a hobby that gets pushed to one side, that they only ever act upon that hobby when they've got a lot of time or when they're bored and they've got nothing else better to do. And maybe, Hafiz Sahib, I think that if we look at the state of the Ummah today, everybody knows we're going to die. Everybody knows that we're going to go in a dark and lonely grave. Everybody knows that we're going to cross the bridge of Sirat. And these are things that I think, when if you're born in a house where you have very, very minimal Islamic upbringing, a very minimal Islamic upbringing, then I think there will not be a single Muslim alive that doesn't know that namaz is farz upon them. There will not be a single person alive that knows that we are going to die. There will not be a single person alive that knows we're going to be buried in a dark and lonely grave. And those Muslims that even have a minimum amount of knowledge, they know that on the day of judgment, we're going to have accountability. If we know all these things, Hafiz Saab, why is it that we just push it or brush it under the carpet or push it to the back of our minds? I just can't get my head round why people just ignore this and completely stay away from the deen.
Surah Mulk Sharif, Allah Azza wa Jal, He mentions, الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. Yeah, so this verse tells us that we're going to be judged by Allah Azza wa Jal for who does the good actions. Now, and then in another verse, Allah Ta'ala, He mentions that I created humans and jinns for my worship. So we were not created just to come here to this world, enjoy ourselves, make mansions, build your businesses up. Halaki, Islam doesn't denounce anyone.
I'm sorry for butting in, but you mentioned there that, we'll be judged on our good deeds. There are a lot of people out there that, well, I do good deeds, don't I? I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing good deeds, I'm giving charity, I'm building, giving food to the poor, I'm helping those people that are flood victims right now, I'm helping all these people. So why do I have to read my namaz?
Again, the thing is, all these things are secondary. Your first of all, your salah, your namaz is compulsory. The Prophet ﷺ, very famous hadith, as-salatu imaduddin, that the namaz, salat, is the pillar of Islam. So if you make a house and you don't have a pillar, how are you going to get the roof on top of it? In the same way, if you don't have salah and the 5 pillars of Islam, you can do any other thing, but that is secondary. That is only going to be rewardable. Your salah is number 1 on the Day of Judgment. That's going to be the first question.
I'm going to ask you a question now, and I want you to be honest with yourselves. Nowadays, a lot of people are talking about bucket lists. I don't know if you've heard that. Have you heard that term before?
A bucket list.
A bucket list.
No.
You've heard of bucket list, haven't you?
I have, but I can't remember what it means.
Okay, I'll explain. What it basically is, a bucket list is basically, a lot of people nowadays, they're making bucket lists. And what this bucket list is, all the things that they want to do before they die. Right. I want to go Australia, I want to go America, I want to do this, I want to do that, and they'll tick them off as they've done them. So they've got a whole list, and I want to drive this car, I want to buy that car, I want to have this house. And there's a whole bucket list that's there. If I was to ask the people that are watching this program now, where on that bucket list is to attain the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jal, I think the majority of us will not have even put it on the list. It won't even be on that list. There'll be countries around the world, there'll be places of scenery around the world. I want to get married, I want to get a semi-detached house, I want to get a bungalow, I want to go here, I want to have that car, I want to have this, but nowhere on that list will be to attain the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jal. Nowhere on that list will it be to acquire the knowledge of the deen. Yes, there may be some few that have it, and I'm not talking about everybody here, but the majority of people, when it comes to these sort of things that you're talking about your deen, it'll not be on that list, Harun Bhai. They won't put it on that bucket list. And that's why, because everything else is a priority. And I say it again, that Islam is unfortunately, I think that in a lot of people's minds, Islam has become a hobby. It's not even on the bucket list of things to do. It's not on the priority things to do. There are many, many people out there, and you know as well, Hafiz Saab, that'll go to the masjid twice a year. They'll go on the 2 Eids and then they've done their job.
One thing, nowadays, Umrah is very easy. Sometimes you ask people, mashallah, so how did you decide that you're going to go on Umrah? Oh, we just thought tickets are cheap, might as well go. Yeah. So it wasn't for the sake of Allah. At the end of the day, I'm not here to judge anyone. But when you look at these people, when they do the Umrah, they don't know what to do. So basically, it was just a cheap flight, so they just took the Umrah. So instead of going to Pakistan directly, and also, like Harun Bhai is mentioning videos as well, it'll be an opportunity for us to go live on Facebook and show it to our friends. If the intention is correct, there's no problem there.
I was thinking this morning, Hafiz Saab, that, during this month, we talk about Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain, and we realized that Imam Hassan went on Hajj 25 times on foot.
MashaAllah.
And I started to think this morning that, if, Harun Bhai, for example, there was no planes. Yeah. Nowadays, planes have really come into the last century, really. The airports and all this air travel has come in the last century. If there was no planes, if there was no trains, if there was no coaches and vehicles, how many of us would perform the Hajj? How many of us would make that journey? Yeah, being that you have to make it on foot, and here in the UK you can't get a camel, so the best thing you could have got is possibly a horse. You'd get a horse from here to Dover. You then get a ship on the other side. You might not be able to take your horse with you, so you'd be walking miles, having animals. How long it would take to get there? Would we do it? And yet you hear about the people of the past that they didn't just do it once in their lifetime. We hear that Imam did it 25 times. Nowadays, when you say, "Oh, I did Hajj on foot," they mean, oh, from Makkah they went to Mina, from Mina they went to Muzdalifah, Arafat. That is Hajj on foot. Whereas these people, they traveled all that journey, and they, and for them there were definitely difficulties. You know, when they went, they didn't go on the internet and find out what the temperature is like in Makkah Sharif, what clothes they need to wear, what lotions they need to take, what medicine they need. They just went. And so that passion has gone inside us, Harun, by that. We haven't got that passion inside us. We want everything easy, like Hafiz Sahab says. It's a cheap ticket. It's something that, okay, I was on the way to Pakistan and I thought, you know what, I'll just go and do Umrah as well, and it'll look good on social media and everybody I'll get loads of likes and everybody think I've done a fantastic job. Same with Hajj. Hajj has become almost a routine thing now. That people are going on Hajj every year, people are going on Umrah every year, and then all of a sudden, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. Without doubt, there's great reward in it. But what are our intentions when they're doing it?
Again, you must think to yourself that even if I do Hajj or any ibadat, we're not doing it for the sake of Allah. If you do it for the sake of Allah, you're going to go to paradise. You'll be away from the fire of hell. But, the question still remains that today, where do I find myself in the deen? That the flood was coming, the earthquakes that are happening around the world. Before it's too late, do something that you will be holding your head high in front of Imam Hussain radiallahu ta'ala anhu, or else it's going to be too late.
Viewers of Madani Channel, you're watching New Year, New Life, and we're just going to take a kalam now, inshallah. But when we come back, we're going to continue with this topic. Let's have the kalam of the day. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
سر وہ ہے جو کٹے اسلام کی خدمت کے لیے، سر وہ ہے جو کٹے اسلام کی خدمت کے لیے، آبرو وہ جگ میں، آبرو وہ جگ میں دین کی عظمت کے لیے، دین پہ قربان ہو گئے کربلا والے، کربلا والے، کیوں جھکے سامنے ادنا کے وہ ذات اعلیٰ، کیوں جھکے سامنے ادنا کے وہ ذات اعلیٰ، کیوں جھکے سامنے ادنا کے وہ ذات اعلیٰ، جس کا ہر نقش قدم، جس کا ہر نقش قدم قبلہ ہو امت کے لیے، دین پہ قربان ہو گئے کربلا والے، کربلا والے، جو کہ آغوش پیمبر میں پھلا پھولا تھا، جو کہ آغوش پیمبر میں پھلا پھولا تھا، جو کہ آغوش پیمبر میں پھلا پھولا تھا، کربلا میں وہ کٹا، کربلا میں وہ کٹا دین کی حفاظت کے لیے، دین پہ قربان ہو گئے کربلا والے، کربلا والے، استقامت پہ فدا ہے تیری اے دست حسین، استقامت پہ فدا ہے تیری اے دست حسین، استقامت پہ فدا ہے تیری اے دست حسین، نہ گیا ہاتھ میں، نہ گیا ہاتھ میں بے دین کی بیعت کے لیے، دین پہ قربان ہو گئے کربلا والے، کربلا والے، ناؤ ہے آل نبی، نجم ہے اصحاب رسول، ناؤ ہے آل نبی، نجم ہے اصحاب رسول، ناؤ ہے آل नज्म है अस्हाब रसूल लिल्लाहिल हम्द के मुजदा है ये उम्मत के लिए दीन पे कुर्बान हो गए करबला वाले सालिक अस्हाब तो नूरानी है और आल है नूर सालिक अस्हाब तो नूरानी है और आल है नूर सालिक अस्हाब तो नूरानी है और आल है नूर नूर को नूर ही लायक तमईयत के लिए दीन पे कुर्बान हो गए करबला वाले
Sallu alal Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Viewers of Madani Channel, you're watching New Year, New Life, and today we're talking about me and Islam. What is my status in Islam? Where am I in Islam? And I think, viewers of Madani Channel, you know that nowadays a lot of people, they go to the doctors. And when they go to the doctor gets them to do a blood test. And when they do the blood test, they find out what is the cholesterol levels, what is the sugar levels, what is the iron levels. And depending on what results they get back, they make a change in their life. They make a change in their life, they make a change in their lifestyle. Depending on the results, they might have to take medication. But at the same time, viewers of Madani Channel, we need to sit back and we need to get a spiritual check and find out what illnesses we've got, what deficiencies we've got inside ourselves. And we need to be honest with ourselves. Because when you get that blood test result and you ignore it and you're not honest with yourself and you say, no, that cholesterol result's not true, that sugar result's not true, then your health will be detrimental as a result of that. In the same way, we need to get a spiritual check. And that's what, mashallah, Hafiz Sahib is trying to emphasize today, that we look at ourselves where we are, look at ourselves where we are going, and say to yourself that if I continue on this route, the route that I'm going now, the way I'm living my lifestyle, where is my ultimate abode? And be honest with yourselves. Because if you're not honest with yourselves, you're not going to achieve anything. You need to be honest with yourself. If I continue on this path, if I continue missing my salah, if I continue missing fasting during the month of Ramadan, where will I end up? And unless you're honest with yourselves, you will not be able to make a change at all. MashaAllah, Hurumba is in the studio.
No, it's a very, very important topic because for the last few days we've been discussing the amazing life of Hazrat Sayyidina Imam Ali Muqam radiyallahu ta'ala. And the life of Hazrat Imam Ali Muqam radiyallahu ta'ala and the Ahl Bayt Athhar, Hazrat Hassan al-Mujtaba, Hazrat Mawla Ali, Hazrat Fatimah al-Zahra radiyallahu ta'ala was Islam personified. So every element of their life, every moment of their life was for the obedience of Allah and His Habib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Although these were the princes of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and in an Islamic empire that was ever expanding, they were, very highly regarded. Deen came first, and then everything else came second. Whereas, unfortunately, what has happened with us is just the other way around. So it was what you were referring to, Hafiz Sahib, where life comes first. My children come first, my work comes first, my enjoyment with the lads comes first, all that comes first. And then if I can slip in a little bit of deen here and there, that makes me, as Khalid Bhai was saying, that I'm doing a little bit, aren't I? And this is where the difficulty is, because the glorious Quran says, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu udkhulu fis-silmi kaffah. Okay, O you who have believed, enter into Islam completely and perfectly. And so we're commanded to enter into Islam completely. And there was, in the commentary of this, in Saratul Jinan Sharif, Mufti Sahib writes that Hazrat Abdullah bin Salam radiallahu ta'ala, when he came into Islam, what he did is he took some traditions from Judaism, and because they didn't clash with Islam, he thought, well, I can avoid those. So it's like not eating camel meat and taking Saturdays off, etc. And so this ayah Mubarakah was revealed in relation to that. Okay, if you're going to enter Islam, enter it completely. Now, that was that situation. But in our situation, what the Ulama Ikram say is this. what we do is we dabble in Islam. We don't enter Islam, unfortunately. So when it suits me, if I've got a problem, I will read namaz. If I haven't got a problem and I'm blessed, I haven't got time for it. If my child is ill and the doctors say, well, look, there's not much we can do, then I'll open the glorious Quran. Or if a relative passes away, I'll open the glorious Quran. But when Allah Azza wa Jal blesses me, I've got a good job, I've got a good house, I've got a stable life, I've got a good partner, everything's working for me. Then I'm too proud and arrogant to prostrate in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal. And it's all about seeing what is priority number one and what fits around it. Now at the moment, priority number one seems to be fulfilling my desires. So whatever I want in life, you know the bucket list that you were mentioning, that bucket list, Khalid Bhai, is really all my desires, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's just that amalgamation of everything that my heart wants to do and everything else. Now nowhere in that bucket list have I got room for Allah and His Habib sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So basically that's me. And within that, there's just me, yeah. And there's no Islam. Whereas like, the topic you had for today was me and Islam. Well, where does Islam fit into me? What it should have been, and being philosophical, is that Islam was there and the me should have disappeared into the Islam, so there's no more me. But what has happened is me stayed there, and Islam we've tried to fit in, and Islam is too beautiful to fit into me. Me has to fit into Islam, if you see what I mean.
You know, I asked a question to someone that, I was giving Neki ki dawah to this Islam brother, and I said to him, you know, if there was only one copy of the Quran in Makkah Park, one copy, how much would you pay to go and see that copy of the Quran? You know, and he goes, I'll pay a lot of money. I goes, about 1,000, 2,000. He goes, yeah, I'll pay 5,000 if possible. I goes, well, Allah Ta'ala has given you 5 copies, you've got them at home, but you've never had the chance to open the Quran. You know, sometimes when you've got some things, you know, Islam for us is for free. You know, we were born into a Muslim family. We don't know about, you know, how Hazrat Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu in the early days of Islam, Sayyidina Usman Ghani in the early days of Islam, the Sahaba Ikram, how much they had to go through. And even today, the people who accept Islam now, so many of them, they might be, you know, taken out of the house, they might be tortured. Even now it happens. These people know the value of Islam. You know, there was an Islamic brother, he got married to a new Muslim Islamic sister. She was a new Muslim. Now, he goes, you know, sometimes I have this argument at home with my sisters and my mother, that you were born Muslims, but look at yourself, you don't even offer your salah. She was a Muslim just 1 year ago, and alhamdulillah, she is paband for tahajjud as well.
Abzab, where did Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam go to speak to Allah Azza wa Jal?
Go ahead, Tur.
Yeah.
Was that a question? Or?
Yeah. And it was Mount Tur, wasn't it?
Ji.
Yet the scholars say that if you want to speak to Allah Azza wa Jal, open the Quran.
Subhanallah.
Open the Quran. This is your conversation with Allah Azza wa Jal. You know, the great walis of Allah Azza wa Jal used to say that when I want to, you know, speak to Allah Azza wa Jal, I stand in salah and recite the Quran. When I want to listen to Allah Azza wa Jal, I read the glorious Quran. Now, it's all about priorities. Let me break it down very, very simply. We believe in Allah Azza wa Jal, yes? We believe Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam gave us the news of the unseen. We didn't know what Jannat was, we didn't know what Jahannam was, we didn't know what's going to happen in the grave. We believed in the ghaib of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We believed in all that, yeah? And we believe in it, don't we?
Ji.
Have we any doubt?
Ji, no.
You know that when you go into your grave, if you haven't prayed, you're going to be punished. Do you believe that?
We should.
On the day of judgment, when you're raised, do you accept that you're going to be put to shame and disgrace if you don't pray? Do we accept that the first question we're going to be asked on the day of judgment is in relation to salah? Do we accept that if we're successful in that, we will get Jannah? And do we accept that if we're unsuccessful in that, we're going to be in the fire of hell?
Now, don't we?
Yeah. Now, it's very simple. This is what I can't. You know the frustration you were showing. I could see the frustration in your mind. Why aren't people understanding? And it's that same frustration. That if you accept all these things, and you know that this life is only a 50, 60-year life, out of which, you know, 15 are spent in childhood, 15, 20 are spent in old age where nobody wants to know you, and it's the little bit in between that you've got to please Allah and His Habib. And if you don't, you're going to have a miserable life in the grave and a miserable life in hereafter.
People are going through this epidemic here, and I have seen doctors and big, you know, popular people put their hands up and say, only God can save us. Yeah, so we all believe that when these things come, it's to pehle we were living our lives. But alhamdulillah, we had the lockdown where many people have changed their lives. But many people have, when the lockdown was open, they've gone back to their same routine again. No namaz. When masjids were closed, pata nahi keda masjid khulsan, please dua karo, masjidan khulan. Still have not been back to the masjid once they've opened.
You purposefully put your hand in a guillotine, yeah, thinking that it might drop.
Yeah.
No,
I won't. No.
No, you
Would
wouldn't.
you? No. Right? Why? Why? Because you know that there's a danger there.
There's a risk.
There's a risk, isn't there? Right? Now, that risk of the guillotine falling, it depends on who's controlling it. It may happen, it may not. Death is definitely coming. Nobody, even the people who are atheists, they can't deny death.
Nobody denies it.
Nobody denies it. The people who don't believe in Allah don't deny it, yeah? So this is the thing. If you accept death, you know that you were born, you're going to die, and for the bit in between, you're going to be held accountable. If you accept that, and as Muslims we do, the problem I have is the same one that Khalid was showing his frustration on, is once you accept it, why haven't you entered Islam fully? This is why I read that glorious ayat of the amazing Quran. Okay, you tiptoe around and you dabble in it, knowing that this is the only solution to your problems, knowing that this is the only savior, and knowing that this is the only success that you can get.
Allah Ta'ala, He says to you, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ, offer your salah, وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ, or give zakat, and we don't. Then we say on one hand that we follow Islam, on the other hand we don't follow the major pillars of Islam.
You see, it's a journey. Yeah, and say I'm looking for direction, and you say London's in that direction, so I'm on the motorway to London. But then as soon as I get on the motorway, I sit down, I'm on the motorway then. Don't need to do anything else now. I'm not going to get to London, am I? Because I'm sat where the road starts. And that's what we've done. We've identified the road to Jannah, and alhamdulillah, that's the beautiful deen of Islam. And then what we've done is choking right the beer. That's it. I'm on the road. No, this was a journey. You had to pray your salah 5 times a day. You had to give your zakat. You had to do your hajj. You had to fast in Ramzan. You had to do all these things on this journey. And this was the fuel for your journey to get you from where you were to Jannah, to Medina, to, the obedience of Allah Azza wa Jal. And majority of us, what we've done is we've sat there. Now, occasionally, what you've got to remember is this. The fuel for this vehicle is the things I've mentioned. You put into there the desires, your bucket list. It won't get you far. It won't get you on that road. It's like a toll station, and the coin, the money that you need to pay, the currency that you need, isn't the fast cars or the big bank balance or the nice houses. The currency for this toll station that takes you on this journey is good deeds. And unfortunately, what we do is we are gathering all this wealth, that we think is going to, when we get to the toll station, we think we're going to pay. My car's going to help me. My bank balance is going to help me. My children are going to help me. My chilling out with the boys is going to help me. And you're going to get to the toll station, and you're going to think, what's happened? The Ulama Ikram say, that person is in particular danger who deceives himself. Deceives himself because, say, for example, you're going out to buy something. Say you're going to buy a television. And before you leave home, if you lose your wallet, then you think, you look around for it, you can't find a ticket, you either won't go or you make arrangements, you'll borrow money. Say, for example, you went out, you looked all over the marketplace, you eventually identified the one you want, you're buying it, you've got it on the desk, and you search for your wallet and it's not there. You're stuck now, aren't you? Now, take that analogy and apply it to the Day of Jannah. Now here, it's just a television and you're in a shop, surely it's embarrassing, you'll walk back out. But on the Day of Judgment, what if you turn up there and Allah says, where are your deeds? What are you going to say? You can't say, well, I haven't got any, but I'll go and borrow. You can't do it. This is why they say that, on that day, we will beg people for one neki, and nobody will give us one deed.
Nowadays, what happens is, people, if you commit a sin, shaitan made me do that. Khatim Asam Rahmatullahi Ta'ala was invited to a dawat. I'm not going to mention the whole waqia. At the end, Khatim Asam Rahmatullahi Ta'ala, he told the person, get some firewood and put a tawa on top of it, a pan, and stand on there barefooted and say to people, each one of you, what have you eaten today? Now, people, what did they say? That, this is your miracle, you're the wali Allah. Exactly the same way, this is what we are doing today. You know, when we talk about, you know, the Buzurgan-e-Din rahimahumullah, that they used to spend their nights in ibadat, their days in roza, in siyam, you know what we say? We're not like them. So we always got an easy way out of that. Khatim Asam rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, when people said that to him, he read the verse of the Quran, ثُمَّ لَتُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ, that on that day when Allah Ta'ala says to you that, you know, all these ni'mats that I've given to you, you know, give me hisab, each one of them, what will you be able to do on that day? Now exactly the same way, what we're doing is, we're relaxed, yeah, we're chilling out, baadi takaya. Some people even have the guts to say, baadi takaya jasi, we'll see what happens later. And Nigran-e-Shura mentioned in his bayan, he mentions a lot of things. You know, when you're standing on the weighing scale, is the fir tak so, fir dekha jayega. So all these kind of things, now it's a wake up time. As Muslims, you know, alhamdulillah azza wa jal, another Muslim, when he invites someone, what is he doing? He's reminding that person. All we're doing here is just reminding ourselves first of all, and we're reminding the people as well that, look, please come back to the deen, come, you know, sit down sometimes, as I say, think out of the box as well. We might be in there, you might be thinking, theek hai janab, main Jummah padhe aana, I'm sure I'm going to read my Jummah. And some people say, janab, aur kya karan? Jummah ta padhne aana sa. You know, Jummah namaz is once a week. What about the rest of the namaz? Who's going to offer them?
You mentioned, and both of you mentioned that, you know, they need to be acting upon the farais to be completely entered in Islam. Where am I going to find them out? How do I mean? What I know, I'm acting upon what I know. Isn't that enough? What little I know. You know, people say that, oh, the people of the past, they didn't have a lot of Islam, but they acted on what they knew. Yeah. And is that enough? That, well, I don't know what you're telling me. All I know is to read my namaz 5 times a day. I don't know anything else. I'm reading my namaz 5 times a day. I don't know anything about zakat. I don't know anything about hajj. I don't know anything about Ramadan. I don't know anything about that. I'm reading my namaz 5 times a day. I don't know anything else. So am I okay?
I was just going to deal with that where you said, because that's a common question that asks, you know, people of the past were very simple, so they didn't do all this. Those people, especially the Sahaba Ikram, the Tabi'in, the Taba Tabi'in, where it's mentioned that they lived simple lives, the farz that they were doing were all perfect. Yeah? It was just that everything else that we try to decorate our lives with, they didn't. So that's the simplicity of their life. But if one takes that, and you're right, people do take it that way, they think, oh, they live a simple life. That doesn't mean, that they didn't pray salah, they didn't read the Quran, they didn't fast. They did everything that was obligatory upon them.
At the time of Hazrat Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, a non-alim could not even go to the market and buy stuff.
Allah.
That was at the time of Hazrat Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He made an announcement that if you know the rules and the etiquettes of buying and selling, then can you come into our market. If that was the rule today, sare bhukhe bari jakar. Why? Because who knows about the rules of buying and, you know, and loads of times we have courses online, you know, do these courses. But again, like we mentioned the other day, people are selling on, you know, on internet websites, but they don't even know the rules of selling on the internet. You need to sit down, sit with a scholar. Sometimes people say, no, Maulvi kaise na pata. You know, they know about the deen, they guide us. It's just like I spoke to someone and he sells motor spare parts. Yeah. So I goes to him. If someone comes to you and say, no, this part is not for this car, that part, you're going to say, hold on a minute, I'm a master in this, I know my parts. In the same way, these ulama kiram, they know their deen. That is why they're trying to teach us the deen. Just like you won't want anyone to teach you about your trade, in the same way, these ulama kiram, they know better than us. All they're doing is just guiding us. If we don't want to take that guidance, on the day of judgment, we will not be able to say that no one told me. Because Allah Ta'ala, He says that these hands, these feet, everything will be your witness. You won't be able to run away from them. So better now that we grab hold of ourselves, stop making these, you know, excuses all the time. As they say, we've made so many excuses. Yaad hi koi kadi number nahi excuse hai. That's how many excuses we've made.
It's all about, we've only got a few minutes left, and I just wanted to sum up in this way. It's all about God consciousness. You know, when we want to show people, Khalid Bhai, in front of you, I'll say, Ya Allah khair, Allah malika, and everything else. But we don't believe that in the heart, and we don't say it from the heart. The day we start to believe it, every action, you know, the Buzurgan-e-Din used to say, ki har kadam phuki phuki, every step they took in the way that, you know, I don't want to displease Allah Azza wa Jal. There was a Buzurg, a pious man of Allah, and he was in the marketplace. And this little kind of parable really sums up where we are. And he was inviting people towards good. And eventually, nobody's listening to him. So he sat down and started to cry. And somebody's walking past and said, why are you crying? And he said, well, I wanted to make a truce between the people and Allah Azza wa Jal. And I was inviting the people to turn to Allah. And I was saying, look, all you need to do is repent in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah Azza wa Jal is the most merciful, the most compassionate. He will forgive everything and He will grant you everything. But so he says, why are you crying? He says, I'm crying because the people just won't listen to me. They're rebuking me. So he says, okay. So a few days later, he sees the same pious man sat in the graveyard. And again, he's crying. He says, well, why are you sat here crying today? He says, well, I'm doing the same thing I was doing a few days ago. He said, what? He said, I'm trying to make a truce between Allah and His people. And he says, what, in the graveyard? He said, yes. But the difference today is that these people want to make a truce, but Allah is saying it's too late.
Allahu Akbar.
It's too late now. And this is the thing. You know, by the time we get God conscious, is it going to be when we get in our grave? Because then we'll have nothing but God consciousness. But this is the life. It's now a time to say, Allah dekh raha hai. You know, Allah Azza wa Jal is watching. We believe that, don't we? We know Allah Azza wa Jal. It's our iman. If it is our iman that Allah Azza wa Jal is watching our every action, then how can we commit sin? How can we hide and look at the wrong thing on the internet? How can we watch TV and do the wrong thing? How can we be disrespectful to our parents? How at salah time can I be playing football or watching TV when Allah Azza wa Jal, the creator of the heavens and the earth, is waiting for me to offer my salah? You know, Allah Azza wa Jal has commanded.
I was talking to an Islamic brother, and exactly the same thing was coming up, that look, you know, we are saying something else and we're doing something else. Here in this world, when we say that, you know, I'm scared of Allah, look at the way, you know, our weddings, our parties, our every day of life, you know, we say we are, you know, we be scared of Allah. If you go to Pakistan, you'll see a massive quote here, Wallahu khairur raziqeen. Allah is the best of sustainers. You know, if Allah Ta'ala, we believe in that, you know, why did we have to go and give a bribery to someone? Why did we have to take a shoka? Why did we do this? Why? Because if you had to, you believe in that, act accordingly to that as well. Our weddings, everyone knows. Just go puchona, you know, if you do this, if you do that, they're haram, you can't do it. You know what they all say? Pata haram hai, lekin kya karan, puttar hi ke hai, pehla puttar hai, pehli thi hai. So now you're saying that it's okay, I know everything, I'm prepared to fight with Allah Ta'ala.
I went, when I was young, yeah, sometimes when you're young, things stick in your head. I'm talking about, you know, when I was between 10, 15, something like that. And certain things, they stick into your head. Jazakallah khairan, Allah accept your nick intentions. You know, when you're younger, certain things, they stick in your head. And there was a friend of my father's, Qibla Walid Sahab, and what he used to say, every second, third sentence, he used to say, Allahu Ghani, Allahu Akbar. And I was really, really impressed by him. And you know what really disheartened me? Was that this was just on his tongue, because he didn't pray and he used to swear and backbiting and all that. And I thought, he's learned these words, but they're just tongue. They're on his tongue. And this is what we have done. You know, we've pretended to become pious to impress Hafiz Sahib, to impress Khalid Bhai, but really, inside, we're not God conscious. And this is our problem. You know, in front of you, I'll pray 100 nafil, and when I'm at home, I can't pray 2. This is the problem.
Viewers of the channel, you've been watching New Year, New Life, and on Harun Bhai's note, I remember reading a story recently that there was a pious person, and someone gave him a parrot as a gift. And this parrot, he taught the parrot to do the zikr of Allah Azza wa Jal. And he taught the parrot to read the kalma as well. But then what happened was, one day, his students came in and they saw that the parrot had died, and the sheikh was crying there. And when they asked him, why are you crying? Is it because your parrot has died? We'll get you another parrot. And he said, no, this parrot was doing the zikr of Allah Azza wa Jal all the time, but when the cat attacked it, when it was close to death, all it was doing was screaming. At the time of death, it forgot the zikr of Allah Azza wa Jal, and I'm worried that when our time of death comes, we still die with Iman, and we will still have the zikr of Allah Azza wa Jal on our tongues. Viewers of the channel, time does not allow me. We've got so much to say on this topic, and maybe we can continue with this topic on another day, but we need to be honest with ourselves. If we're not honest with ourselves, and we're not judge ourselves where we are today, then we can't make a change. And that is the first thing that we need to do. Be honest with ourselves, look at yourself in the mirror and say, where am I now? Where am I going? Where do I want to be? And if need be, make the change. Dawat Islami is here to help you in so many different platforms. Harun Bhai and Hafiz Sahib just mentioned them very, very briefly, but there's so many platforms in which we can help you, but you need to be the first move. They say, there's a saying in English that you can take a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink it. All we're trying to do here, viewers of the channel, we're trying to make you thirsty, make you realize what your situation is so you can make a change. You've been watching New Year, New Life. Keep watching Madani Channel. Sallu alal Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
May Allah make this year more auspicious for us. New year, new life. New year, new life. May Allah make this year more auspicious for us. New year, new